Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they've spent. Take another look and take some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Well, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, it's time for him.
Yes, it is. It is time for hemp, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the big broadcast. I am your host, Casper Leach, and you can find other broadcasts like this at timeforhemp.news, and it's all free to download. We got videos there, we got audios there, we got great music there. And here today, we've got somebody on the line that you're going to enjoy hearing from, and we got a couple of great joint hosts as well. Don't forget, anytime you hear the word joint on the big broadcast, we ask that you hit your pipes, your bongs, and your vaporizers and take time for hemp. Ain't that right, Al Graham?
Yes, it is. Correct. It is right. We always like to take time for hemp, no matter what time of the day it is. How you doing, Casper?
Pretty groovy, and you got a lot going on up there at the Pace Network.
Yes, people advocating cannabis education. You can find the Pace Network at paceradio.net. We cover psychedelics as well as cannabis 7 days a week.
And also on the big broadcast,
as Friday mornings at 10 o'clock.
Oh my gosh, that's pretty groovy. Remember that, 10 o'clock a.m.
Eastern.
And also on the big broadcast today as a joint host is the author of this groovy book, Albert. Hey, Al.
Hi. I don't think I've heard groovy in quite a while. You're dating yourself.
You bet you're bit beyond dating myself.
Groovy. Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, it's a groovy book. You know, I'll go with it. And I did write it, and it's been written. And if you don't have one, I'd suggest you get a hold of it, especially if you're a healthcare professional, a patient, somebody that loves one or cares for a patient or somebody sick or a veteran. It's 360 pages of basically medical cannabis information wrapped into a story of 40-year history of how did this happen anyway? How did we get medical cannabis in the United States?
Speaking of veterans with great stories, you've got a friend that you brought to our network a long time ago who's a friend of ours now. Why don't you introduce him?
I will do that. And Casper is an Army veteran, and I am a Navy veteran, and our guest is a Marine Corps veteran, which, of course, he's in the Navy, you see, but part of the Navy is called the Marines in the United States for us Canadian people. But Marines are a separate entity of themselves. They have their own history, their own dignity, their own honor, and they deserve it all. So what we got here is we've got a retired Marine officer, a combat veteran, and a guy I've known now for several years, had some great discussions, and we're going to have one today. His name is Brian Buckley.
Hey, Brian.
How are you?
Hey, Brian.
All right. Yeah, you guys are groovy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I just think we're old geezers, but if we're groovy old geezers, I'll amend it. Yeah.
I got my bell bottoms on. We're good.
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
And no, I appreciate that. Yeah, we are a department in the Navy. The Marine Corps is. We like to think of ourselves as the men department. So, yeah, have to pick it up there for him a little bit.
I love inter-service humor. If you are not familiar with it, you might think these guys are demeaning each other or something. Just the opposite. It's just the military is its own little world, and it was a great one to be in, and I know you felt that way too. So give us a short background, and then let's go into different things we've discussed, but we go into your business problems with California, anywhere you want to go. So you were a Marine once.
Yes. Yeah. So I originally went to University of Massachusetts to play football. 9/11 took place. So I decided I wanted to get into the military, and I was actually looking at the Navy and transferred to Villanova University, got into the ROTC unit with there. And that's when I just started falling in love with the Marine Corps. So I shifted over to the Marine option and graduated. And I was in my first platoon was in 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines out of Camp Lejeune. And I went to Iraq, came back from that deployment. They gave me an opportunity to try out for Marine reconnaissance. Made that. So they gave me orders to 2nd Reconnaissance Battalion, also at Camp Lejeune, and did another deployment to Iraq. And then around that time, the Marine Corps got into the special operations world, and we established what is now known as the Marine Raiders. So it's the same as the Navy SEALs or Army Green Berets, and was fortunate enough to make that and spent a majority of my time in the Marine Corps as a Marine Raider, as a team commander. So I was with them also in Camp Lejeune and Camp Pendleton out here in California, and did deployments to Afghanistan, Southeast Asia, and Africa. So that was a really interesting time, and got to learn a lot more about, not just the military side, but working with the government more, with embassies and things like that. So really was just an amazing experience, and just so fortunate and blessed to serve with the people I served with, and how many people I met, and not just that, like during my active duty time, but even on the veteran side. Still obviously heavily engaged with veterans, and just some really amazing patriots. So yeah, I could talk for days about that stuff.
Well, you got a huge slice of the world. I mean, the environment that you were moved around in allowed you to see a variety of aspects of poverty, pain, human nature, culture, that probably opened your eyes to a new way of blending the human race together.
Sure, absolutely. It was just, very interesting seeing all these different cultures. It really made me feel so blessed, winning the lottery, being born in America, and just, obviously we're not perfect. There's a lot of things we can improve upon, but I still think one of the best experiments out there is the United States of America. And I just kind of reflect on some of the places I've been and the people I've met, and I've seen the very best in people, and I've seen the very worst in people. Definitely eye-opening.
It's some of the worst in people that you've had to deal with that has now brought you into the environment that you're working yourself into now, your own organization and your own approach to dealing with the problems that society hands veterans when they leave the military, and they have a lot to deal with, a lot of baggage.
Yeah, that's for sure. And one of my friends one time told me, I think it was during the November time frame, and obviously that's big with Veterans Day and the Marine Corps birthday and all this stuff. So I was like a centerfold or something in High Times, and my buddy's like, who would ever think we would see Brian Buckley like in the High Times magazine and all that stuff. But it's been a very interesting ride, and never really dealt with anything on the cannabis side growing up. But now being a veteran and dealing with the things I'm dealing with and seeing what other veterans are dealing with, it's just amazing what cannabis can do for people. And, we're making progress, but still it's kind of baffling at times where we're not making fast enough, I think, improvements that we could to our
But
health.
you've reached the understanding that cannabis brings peace of mind to those who have to wrestle with a lot of demons.
Absolutely. Both, not just on, what you're going through like everyday life, but also on like, the physical side of the pain relief and things that cannabis can do versus opiates. It's an amazing Swiss Army knife, if you want to put it that way. I think
you've done at least 2 positive actions to get involved with the things you're talking about. Why don't you tell the audience about the foundation, your growers association, whatever you want.
Yeah. So what originally it was around the 2016 timeframe. I think that's, I got out of the military in 2013 and was just kind of head down in the corporate America world, just making money. Right. And, not only was I dealing with some demons, but I started kind of seeing what was happening with veterans. So I decided to start a nonprofit called Battle Brothers Foundation. And originally I was just using it to, help out veterans with their VA disability claims. And it just kind of grew from there. And again, saying I was dealing with some demons, one of my friends said, hey, why don't you try some cannabis? Obviously a little bit apprehensive at first, but, I kind of felt desperate. I'm like, hey, I'm willing to try it out. And I'll just never forget the first time I had some cannabis. It was the first time I went to had a full night of sleep in I don't know how many years. I went, wow, this is pretty remarkable, and kept having positive results. And it just led me to talk to more veterans about it and hearing how well it was helping them. So I decided to say hey, why can't I go to the VA and get, 15 pills of opiates or whatever like that? But it seems like this cannabis plant can answer so many issues I'm dealing with. And sat down, met with some members of Congress and said, what would I have to do to get cannabis into the VA system? And after they were done laughing at me, they said, listen, if you can go out and, get data and have it backed by American doctors, you're going to have a very positive argument. So I was at a UCLA cannabis symposium one night, listening to doctors speak. It was all well and good, but the most provocative part of that night was during a coffee break. And I met a gentleman named Alon Blot, and Alon is an Israeli, and he has a medical firm called Niametic Healthcare and Research Services. And they really kind of got onto the map way back when Dr. Sanjay Gupta did a series on CNN. He actually flew over to Israel, and he was with Niametic, and they were showing what cannabis was doing for the senior citizen community. And when I had discussions with them, they're like, you're going to need to get this thing called an institutional review board, or an IRB. And that falls under the FDA. And it means you have been cleared to whatever you're researching, you can now use it on human subjects. And they're like, listen, it's going to be very difficult to get. It's very serious business, obviously, whenever you're testing something out on a human being. And in America, it's a Schedule I narcotic. So they're like, we'll see what we can do here. And I was trying to think, how can I make money to get this thing going and also spread the word about what I'm doing? So I decided to start a company out here in California called Helmand Valley Growers Company, or HVGC. And those four letters are significant in the Marine Raider world. It originally meant the Helmand Valley Gun Club, and you were able to get an HVGC tattoo if you were a Raider and you served in the Helmand province. So I wanted to, kind of pay tribute to all the men and women who did time in the Helmand. And also I thought it was a kind of a, cool way, a cool name, if you could, a cool brand. So I established that company, and with the money we made off of that, with our profits, we put back into the nonprofit to help raise money to get this IRB going. And that IRB cost about $150,000. So once we had that money, we went forward, put together a plan of action, went to the IRB, and basically what IRB is, it's a panel of doctors, and they're going through everything, making sure your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed. And we got approval for it. And once we got approval for that, we were able to get the University of California at Irvine to come on to be our principal investigators. They're strictly in an observational role, so they're not going to be touching any THC. So they were cleared to participate in that. So essentially we would have Israeli doctors working with U.S. veterans and having American doctors kind of in the background validating, yep, that happened, and away we go. So right now, we're still in discussions with Congress. We have that sitting on their desk, and we're hoping by next summer we would get the approval to get the first study going, which will probably be about the $2 to $3 million range. And once we have that data, we would have a recommended treatment protocol and a formulation. We would move it into another state outside of California just to prove that it's repeatable and accessible. And if that goes well, which we are very bullish it will, because the Israelis have had very positive results with it, that's when we start going to the double blinds and so on and so forth. And hopefully, at some point, we actually have Hellman Valley Growers Company product in the VA system where veterans can have it prescribed, being the key word, to help out with what their ailments are.
So let me just interrupt.
Mhm.
So if you're out there with a couple of $1 million and you're looking for a really, really effective place to put your money as a donation, as philanthropy, you might want to get a hold of Brian. This is a program of much importance. It would mean so much to the veteran community. I can't tell you what it would mean to us. And for a lot of you, a couple of $1 million isn't a lot of money. I know that. And if you could reach out to Brian or me or somebody, we'll be glad to take this money. And I'll tell you, I know this man. It will be spent appropriately.
Any idea what state you're looking at next?
We've looked at Colorado. Basically what I've learned is kind of how the VA systems are broken down. They essentially have like districts, and one area in Colorado, they're trying to become a more progressive VA system where not just cannabis, but they also want to look at the psychedelics as well and see how it goes. And they're actually, more or less recruiting medical professionals who are open to that idea of cannabis and psychedelics. So that might be a spot we would like to go next. But we've had this plan, like I said, since like 2016. So here we are, almost coming up on a decade. So I think once we get through that first study and we show this is what we did, I'm hoping we have a lot of options and VA systems raising their hands saying we would like to try it out here.
Well, I know one of our joint hosts is pretty much into psychedelics, aren't you, Al Graham?
Yeah, oh yes, we cover psychedelics on the network. But and it's great. The stuff I'm seeing in the news with the veterans and psychedelics and getting, going through the process. I think it's fantastic what we're seeing, and if you can branch into that, then that opens up a whole new door for you.
Well, and part of it too is that everybody knows that Canada is like one big party country. It's like spring break 12 months out of the year, so you're all psychedelics and smoking pot and woohoo.
Well, they're sitting on frozen lakes. Theoretically fishing and just getting wasted on moosehead ale. That's what they're doing.
And I think it's great too, because we need options. I tell people, like, listen, cannabis is not a silver bullet where it's going to heal everything. And some people might not need cannabis. I mean, we do see that it could enhance if you, it could make some things a little bit worse on some people. But you look at the psychedelics, that might be more the answer. I was working with an Army veteran, and he was saying, hey, I think I need cannabis. And it's like, man, I don't know if that's going to be appropriate for what you need. Maybe the psychedelic path might be more appropriate for you. So I just think having the options out there for that veteran is going to be paramount.
You started this interview talking about your friend that went to an ayahuasca retreat or ceremony. In order to help him out. So the benefits are there, and doesn't seem to me to be the stigma around the psychedelics as it does around the cannabis end of things. Whether it's just because it's not smoking or what, I'm not sure. But I think you're going to see the psychedelic end of things accelerate.
I agree with you. It seems like that has more momentum, and I'm not sure why, but whatever, that's all good. But it seems, if I had to pick which one will get across the goal line first, I think it's going to be the psychedelics would be the first thing to kind of get that big approval here in America. And then I think cannabis would shortly follow after that.
Well, I told my story before, but I had these terrible migraine headaches, and I tried cannabis to alleviate it, and it really didn't do anything at all for me. They call them cluster headaches. The pain is freaking incredible. And they had it for 20 years. They gave me all kinds of pills. I used to carry around an oxygen bottle. I had one in my truck. And that would help. If the thing was coming on, I could feel it. If I got enough oxygen in, but nothing worked. And then a doctor that we all know, a buddy of mine, called up and said, "Listen, have you tried psilocybin mushrooms for your cluster headaches?" And no, it worked. I had one dose of psilocybin mushrooms, and these incredible headaches I'd had for 20 years were gone. And that was 20 some years ago. So I'm a believer. If it can help anybody anywhere, especially a veteran, the VA, as Al says, there is a move in the VA to push this forward. Thank goodness. I'm with you, Brian. I don't know why, but I don't care. That's what they want. I'm into it, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, Al, you're proof of it working with Dan.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But, you said you did it 20 years ago. And you're still.
Well, I'll back up my story. So the doctor that told me this, you guys know his name, Ethan Russo.
Yeah.
So Ethan calls me up. How the hell did it go? It's fine. It's great. It's fine. Wow. So he's in Missoula, Montana, and he says, "Listen, I got a buddy of mine, an MD, that's got the same problem. Can you send her some of the same mushrooms that you use?" Well, it's illegal, Ethan. So I did it, and she got them, and she called me, and I told her what I had done. Basically, take the psilocybin, not an overwhelming dose. Like it was my recollection, a couple of stems and a couple of buttons, just this size, small size. Chew them up, take them down as fast as you can with grapefruit juice. There seems to be something in the acid of the grapefruit juice. And then, so anyway, she tried it, didn't work. She tried it again, worked. Hasn't had a headache either. So it took her twice, took me once, but it's back up. And it wasn't just those mushrooms. It was like mushrooms, the key here.
Well, speaking of key, I know money is key. And Brian, I think you've got a GoFundMe for people to reach out to as well, don't you?
Yeah. I know it's going to come up here on the show. I was fortunate enough to meet up with a guy named Jason Baldwin, who was at a ceremony. I wasn't at this one. Well, I've never done one before, to be honest, but he linked up with a couple of buddies that I have, and talking about this great movie that he put together called Tourniquet. And it's an amazing script. I think he got motivated after the, I say the quote unquote withdrawal of Afghanistan back in the late summer of 2021, which was a really rough time for a lot of veterans. And it's just, I think we really got an issue that us veterans know about, but I don't think society has really understood of how big of a problem we're having with the suicides in the veteran community.
And listen, that's the teaser, see, because we're going to come back with Brian in the next show here that's coming up really pretty quick.
Yep.
And we're going to lead off with this veteran suicide. Mm-hmm. And veteran suicide is a problem. We're concentrated on it, but suicide is a problem. And so whatever we can learn from our veteran community can be directly applied to everybody else. And I think that we'll talk about this, but in states in the United States where cannabis has been recreationally available to everybody over 21, the suicide rates in every one of those states has dropped dramatically, like 25%. So anyway, that's a teaser, but we want to come back and talk about cannabis and veterans and movies and Hollywood and how Brian Buckley is about to become a star, and you saw him here first.
Well, and with that said, Al, Byrne, you want to give them a quick reminder where they can get this groovy book?
Yeah, and Brian is not in my book. He was outside the parameters of the history book that I wrote. But everybody else is that meant anything to medical cannabis in the United States, in the world. This guy like Ethan Russo, he's all over that book. Again, if you want to know the history, who really did this stuff, including the guys on this screen, it's in that book. And if you want some really good medical information, stuff that you still haven't heard, even though you think you have, it's in that book.
And for all my friends up in Canada, here's some 3D TV. And Al Graham, what you remind people about the groovy network you got up going up there?
Yeah, you can find the Pace Network at paceradio.net. We cover cannabis as well as psychedelics. We have broadcasts that go out 7 days a week.
And I want to remind people that if you go to timeforhemp.news, you get all kinds of free downloads. You can get music, podcasts, newsletters, find blog posts, lots of great things to share with your friends to let the whole world know just how important it is to take time for hemp.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they've spent. Take another look and take some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for him. Well, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, it's time for hemp. Throughout Earth's history, hemp has been used, no mystery. Hemp was legal to pay your taxes for more than a century. Check your faxes. The founding fathers make sense to me. It's time to grow hemp legally. Think of all its uses. It's money that's well spent. Right now, no excuses. It's time for hemp. Sustainable green industry, that's our intent. A better place this world will be. It's time for hemp. Fuel and food and clothes and soap, housing, cars, yeah, cars, no joke. Henry Ford built a car of hemp. It's time for us to do it again. People be employed with balanced farming as it's meant. Right now, it's time for hemp. Hemp is a true necessity for the wealth and protection of this country. These are words of Jefferson Thomas. He grew hemp, why not us? It's time to lift the hemp ban. It's time to lift the hemp ban. Yes, we can. I know we can. We can make a difference. Yes, we can. Yes, I know we can. We can work together and lift the hemp ban. Look at all that money. Yeah, the money that they've spent. Take another look and take some time for hemp. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation. Yeah, it's time for hemp.